if Israel was established through legal purchase of land and then survival and defensive wars, on what grounds do you deny its legitimacy as a state?
I don't know if I deny its legitimacy. I'm not necessarily like I don't think it's like not. I think the problem is it's an apartheid state. I think that that needs to be addressed in the same way it was addressed in like South Africa, but I don't know. I mean, I obviously wasn't of the awareness when South Africa was happening, but I was like, however old, not old enough.
Of the awareness.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't know the right way to say it, but yeah, I'm against Israel's actions. I'm not against Israel, and I think we've talked about this at least briefly on another episode. I actually support Israel in terms of the its existence. I actually think if there was a conflict to boil over in the Middle East, Israel is probably whose side we should be on. Now, if it was
Sure.
the actions they're taking right now that led them into war, then I wouldn't say we should be on their side. But
Sure. Okay. That was an acceptable take.
mm.
Um, the term Palestinian people only really gained traction in the mid 20th century. Do you think the relatively modern construction of that identity weakens the claim to ancient ownership of the land?
No, I think if anything, it strengthens the claim that they've been rejected sovereignty, despite having a legitimate claim for decades.
Interesting. Uh, how do you justify Hamas and their leadership targeting civilians, school buses, schools, families, under, as a Catholic, obviously the just war principles, which explicitly forbids attacking non-combatants? How do you justify being pro-Palestine when that's how the leadership acts?
Sure, I don't justify anything Hamas does. I think Hamas is terrible, also needs to go. I don't justify any civilians or children being attacked or anything like that. What I would say and why or how I would justify, I guess, being pro-Palestine, despite that, is I would look at it in an equation of like slave owners and slaves. I would never like if a slave owner killed a slave and then a slave killed a slave owner in revolt or like a trying to escape, I think both of those things are wrong. But I think one is demonstrably more wrong than the other. And I think that the power imbalance in this is kind of similar. And when it comes to Palestine specifically, which has been occupied, according to the ICJ, since 1967, you have an occupier occupied type of relationship. So I would never hold Hamas to the same standard as Israel. Now, that being said, I do still hold them to be completely immoral actors in this conflict.
Some slight disagreements there, but another not crazy take.
I'm not
If
crazy, I promise.
if both sides commit atrocities, what principle allows you to single out Israel as uniquely evil? Now, obviously, I wrote these questions before hearing some of your other answers, so
Mhm.
um, your answer here is probably similar to what you just said. I
Yeah,
guess.
it would be the power, it would be almost exactly similar. The power imbalance. I guess the context I could add in terms of this is the word I would give is I'm not sure that roles reversed, that it would be different, right? I think that if like Muslims had the upper hand on Jews in the region, for these decades, that you could be seeing the same type of oppression. I think the problem is more cultural, and obviously like there's like religious, like age-old religious tensions there. So Israel is uniquely evil because their power imbalance enables them to be so in a way that Gaza just couldn't, or Hamas, that I should say.
If tomorrow Israel disarmed completely, what would happen to its people? And if Hamas disarmed completely, what would happen to theirs, in your opinion?
If Hamas disarmed, nothing would happen. The like everything would continue. Many people in Israel's leadership has said as much, that it's not about the hostages, that they want to siege Gaza. I think it's either the defense minister or the finance minister literally just said like a couple weeks ago that they want to make Gaza Jewish, that they're not going to stop until they siege all of Gaza and make it Jewish. They want to go into Gaza City. They've already sent in evacuation leaflets. So like they're trying to go in. I don't think that if Hamas laid down arms, anything would change. I think that if I don't know necessarily what you mean by is if Israel laid down arms. If Israel like like left the settlements and stopped occupying Gaza, I think that that would drastically change things in the region. But I'm not one who thinks that Israel should like stop like the Iron Dome or anything. So I don't know if that's what you mean necessarily.
Yeah, I just meant stop fighting, lay down arms, just
Yeah, I
stop
think if they stop
attacking
being the aggressor, not
them
only
at all.
I think if they stop being the aggressor here, if they stop being the aggressor in Lebanon, if they just stopped acting as an aggressor and occupying people, that there would be a lot more peace in the situation, especially since they have Western backing. We've had normalization talks with like Iran, we've had them with Saudi Arabia. So the idea that like it's impossible to normalize with these countries is kind of fantasy to me.
Yeah, and just to push a little bit more and to clarify, I guess I mean like if Israel, so I'm not talking about expanding any of their settlements or anything. Obviously, they would have to stop that, but
Mhm.
all of the land that is currently considered to be Israel proper, like there's no if or ands or buts, not like something within like the last couple months or something that they took. I mean, like stuff that's been Israel proper for like 10, 15, 20 years. You don't think that, you think that the Palestinians would be like, okay, that's fine.
I think that,
You
well, I mean, I think they'd be upset, obviously, but what I'm saying is I think that there's normalization talks that can be had. Now, in my opinion, I think that it would probably be dependent upon some sort of land swaps. I don't think that Gaza should ever think that they're going to get the 67 borders back. Like that's not going to happen. But I mean, in just terms of a moral claim, there's lands that both of them consider holy. Both of them have age old claims to them. I think that it's just sensible, obviously, that talks would have to be had. And I mean, settlements have been had even in the last couple decades. So land swaps would have to happen, in my opinion.
okay? And then this is my final one. Um, what do you think is a realistic end game? One state, two state, no Israel at all, no Palestine at all, and then on top of that, how does this square with international law?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like what I think is morally correct, I think that a one state solution is morally correct. Now, if I'm talking about like pragmatically and like what like could actually happen, and obviously, and I would say in the short, I don't think that going from where we're at immediately to a one state solution is also the goal. Pragmatically, I don't know if a one state solution would ever happen, though. It would probably be a two-state solution. In my opinion, it's whatever they want. If Palestinians have sovereignty, it's whatever the people on the ground decide that's for them to work out. I think probably what would be needed would be the biggest fucking wall possible. I'll bleep that out. The biggest wall possible between the two of them and some sort of like third party negotiator operating in. There probably needs to be some sort of like custodianship of the
I
Holy
think
Land.
Trump's ears perked up when you said wall, big wall.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with them, it's different because it's more like
Yeah,
they shoot over the borders at each other. So
yeah,
it's
I know.
like they just need something to
Rockets,
stop
yeah.
that. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. It's a complicated thing for sure. And then
Okay,
international law, real quick, international law. I mean, I think most international countries recognize Palestine as a state. So I think it would square pretty easy.
I'm curious. I know I said that was my last one, but now I'm curious because you framed it this way of what you mean by morally. You think it should be a one state. What do you mean by that exactly?
Sure. I mean, both have claims to the land. I think that in terms of like how Israel was came to be, a lot of it was just like people not wanting to deal with the land anymore. So they're like, all right, like here, we'll toss it off to you guys. Here's a deal. And then since then, it's been problems. But both of them have these like age old claims. Both of them have religious claims. And again, when South Africa was an apartheid state, we weren't saying, hey, let's break South Africa into two states where black people live over here and white people live over there. It was obviously a one state sort of solution because when you think of a two-state solution, there's a lot of problems that always end up with Palestinians getting the short end of the stick, like who gets the fertile lands, who gets access to the better ports, who gets the beachfront properties. And these are all things that obviously, like if we're talking from a moral sense, Israel doesn't have more of a claim to them than Palestine, but in terms of just the sheer power and balance, they could take all of them if they wanted.
Just for my 2 cents, personally, as a religious person, I don't think the religious claims matter at all. Like, I don't think that you can use that to just that's our land because it means something to our religion. Otherwise, then my guys got to get involved in this fight too, because Jerusalem is one of the holy sees of the Christian church. I mean, that's where the first council was held with the apostles. That's Jesus is from, like, so then we're gonna get involved, and now we've got three religions, and then I'm sure some other religions like Zoroastrianism actually back in the and so I don't think we can use like my religion. I don't think that matters personally. Like
Yeah, I mean,
I
well, to
get
be
why it matters emotionally, but like
Yeah. Yeah. So
you
I mean,
can't
to be
say
clear, I don't think any religious claim matters in any context ever. But I mean, in this battle, in this conflict, religious conflict, that's like the first thing people go to. So I like to make clear like both sides have that same claim. It's not like only Israel uniquely has some religious claim or something.
right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think we agree on that. Basically, that like it's not
Mm.
like just because that's a holy site for you, you automatically get to just have it now.
Yeah.
That doesn't really that doesn't map onto real life. That's not really how it works. So